Hello and welcome. This is 10 a.m. to the point editorial discussion by Neva Yes. In this video, we are going to comprehensively discuss all the editorial articles from the Hindu newspaper on 24th June 2024. Let's look at the editorial page of the Hindu today. We have two articles for detailed discussion. One is on the ceiling limit that is set on reservation at 50%. So this was upheld by the Patna High Court recently. We'll discuss this issue in detail. Then we'll move to an article on green governance. So this is a comprehensive article, one of the most beautifully written articles of recent times in the newspaper editorial page, because it comprehensively covers the issues of India's economic governance and throws light into issues like urban affairs as well. So we'll discuss that in detail. Then we have articles for quick overview. We'll have a discussion on the recent boycotting of elections by AIADMK in Tamil Nadu. We'll look at the parliamentary reforms that is reflected upon this article. We'll look at the issue of railway safety. Then we'll look at the Hindu data point that deals with the issue of census. And finally, we'll come to the article on the Andhra Pradesh Reorganization Act. This is a specific issue on the electricity demand by both the states. So let's start the editorial discussions one by one. First, this is a quick overview on the second editorial by the Hindu. The issue is there is going to be a bypoll in Tamil Nadu in the Villupuram district, which is located in the North Tamil Nadu. So what the interesting thing is, the election is between two major parties in Tamil Nadu, DMK and AIDMK. So these are the two major Dravida parties in Tamil Nadu. And after the death of Jayalalitha, who was the stalwart of AIDMK party, the party is in ruins. So they were part of the NDA alliance previously, and the recently concluded general elections, which is 2024, they got 0 seats. So this is the condition of this party right now. And in the upcoming elections, they have declared to boycott the elections. So the reason why they wanted to boycott the election is because they accuse the ruling party for excess use of money and power. Even though the reason is valid, because there has been a past incident where the Election Commission of India cancelled the RK Puram elections. So this is one case that you can quote in your answer in the mains paper on electoral reforms or electoral malpractices, because the ECI itself has cancelled the RK Puram elections in the past. So there has been an incident like that. On the similar lines, the AIDMK has decided to boycott the upcoming elections. So this is a serious electoral issue in the context of India, because if parties decide to boycott elections, that is creating a new issue. So the article says that the Election Commission has to act. So despite what a party calls for, the ECI must ensure fair polling, that says the editorial. The editorial says that the most powerful tool at the hand of the ECI is to freeze the symbol. So this is something that threatens every political party, because people often identify parties with their symbols. In case of AIDMK, it is the two flowers. So just like this tool, the ECI can put pressure on the political parties and bring them to their terms. Also, this is a two-way issue. So we have to address the issue of excess use of money and power here. Boycotting is its secondary part, because this is a serious issue. To address that, the ECI has to deploy its tools like freezing of symbols. Along with that, there needs to be a sensitized civil society, because if people are not ready to take bribes, then parties cannot flow money into the electorate. So sensitizing the society using civil society groups is another measure. So this article deals with a specific case study. This can be taken for an answer on electoral issues, as I've already said. Let's move to the second article. The second article deals with the upcoming Lok Sabha, the first session of the 18th Lok Sabha. So you should be clear which Lok Sabha is running now, because in the 2024 prelims paper, there was a question on the Nari Shakti Act, which said that the act will be implemented in the 18th Lok Sabha. So if you don't know which Lok Sabha is active now and which Lok Sabha is upcoming, then you could not have answered that question. So it is important to understand the current Lok Sabha is the 18th Lok Sabha. The first session is going to be held in June 24, that is today, and the author throws some light into the issues that are going to be taken up in the first Lok Sabha discussion. The author says that the 17th Lok Sabha had a norm, which is the opposition will have its say and the government will have its way. So it generally reflects the character of a weak opposition or a strong majoritarian party at the center. So this norm is going to change, says the author. Now the opposition is strong. They have 230 members and the ruling coalition has 300 members. If this is the case, the voice of the opposition will be heard louder. In that case, there will be some significant changes in the 18 Lok Sabha. And one of them is the post of the deputy speaker. Because in the 17th Lok Sabha, the post of the deputy speaker was vacant for the whole 5 years. This post by the Lok Sabha norms is often given to the opposition. But for the past years, it was kept vacant. The author expects that the post will be filled or it should be filled in the coming term. Second, in the last Lok Sabha, there was a decreasing trend of referring bills to the committees. One example is the farm bills. So the 3 farm bills which had a very long impact in Indian politics was not referred to the committees. One of the major criticisms of the bill was it was introduced with lack of consensus. Because several of the opposition MPs were suspended, then it saw widespread protest which blocked the entire Delhi for a long time, and finally the government had to revoke the bill. So if the bill was referred to the committees, it would have ensured the process of consultation and consensus building. So referring more bills to the committees is something that the author looks forward to in the upcoming parliament sessions. Finally, there were 2 issues that was raised by the opposition already. The first issue was the removal of the statues of both Ambedkar and Gandhi. Both these statues were removed and placed in a new position. The opposition accused the government of lack of consensus on this matter, but the government took the stand that these are non-political issues that need not be politicized. And the second issue was the appointment of the pro tem speaker. So you should know that pro tem speaker is appointed first. Usually the senior most member is appointed. Under the pro tem speaker, every member takes the oath. Then under the pro tem speaker, on that session, the date of the election of the speaker and the deputy speaker is decided. And on this session, the speaker and the deputy speaker is elected. Then thereon, the parliament convention goes on. But regarding this, the senior most member, whose name is Kodingunnil Suresh, is an MP from Kerala, he was not appointed as the pro tem speaker. Instead, a member from the ruling party was appointed as the pro tem speaker. So this is called into question by the opposition. The opposition says that this is in breach of the trust or the respect of the parliamentary conventions. So that issue also was dismissed by the Parliamentary Affairs Minister, saying that there need not be politicizing of such issues, and the opposition decided to boycott the initial initial meeting, all parliamentary party meeting in that regard. But the first session of the parliament is likely to be productive on these lines as expected by the author. Now let's move to the third article, which is on the safety of the Indian railways, because recently there was a clash of 2 trains. One goods train and a passenger train collided and 11 people were killed. On these lines, the article discusses the issue of safety in Indian railways. So the author says that the safety records have improved in recent times because there has been cases of closing unmanned level crosses, because on that regard we have improved, and there is a emphasis on track maintenance that has also reduced accidents. But on a whole, we are far ahead from the aim of zero fatality corridor or zero fatality record. There is increased number of fatalities, that too by lack of operational efficiency. So this issue was attributed to the lack of alertness to the signaling system. So signaling has been a long-term issue in Indian railways. You know, there was an accident in Odisha when one train rammed on top of other. That was also attributed to signaling system. So how do we cover up these issues? The author says that 25% of the total capital expenditure of the government is given to railways. So short of fund is something that the railways can't afford to say no, because they are getting the funds. Now it is all about the effective deployment of these funds. Now there was one scheme called the Kavach scheme, which was an indigenous signaling scheme that used radio frequency identification technology that would deter accidents. But the rollout of the scheme was very slow. Till now the rollout percentage is very low, and the rolling out it in the 100% efficiency is at a long distant future. So what is the cause? The railway minister says that it is the lack of support from allied industries, because you can have the technology, but to implement it in every train in the country, you need other industries, manufacturing industries from private sector to pitch in. This lack of support is cited as a reason for the slow rollout. But the author says that it is up to the ministry and the government to incentivize the private sector to come into the picture, which is not happening. The author also cites the reason of understaffing. Railway is heavily understaffed. With such a big network and such a big population, you need proper staffing to control the Indian railways efficiently. So these are the three issues that are concerning the Indian railways. There are other issues also. The article talks about these specific issues and one case study which can be taken into account for an answer in the mains. Let's move to the fourth article on the quick overview part. This is a very specific regional issue. It deals with the bifurcation of the Andhra Pradesh state as per the Andhra Pradesh Reorganization Act of 2024. And after the act, one of the clauses was about power sharing, because power is generated in the undivided Andhra Pradesh. And this power was divided on the formula of 53% to Andhra Pradesh and 46% to Telangana. This is on the basis of the past 5 years power consumption. But after the bifurcation, Andhra Pradesh was reluctant to supply the said amount of power to Telangana. Now the Telangana party chief, BRS party chief, has written a letter to the Judicial Commission on this issue. And that's why we are discussing this issue. It's a specific regional issue. I'm just explaining it for your understanding. Let's move to the other article on quick overview. The final article, it's a very interesting case study, is the Hindu data point. So it says that the 2021 census is delayed in India. We all know that the 2021 census is not conducted. And the reason given by the government is pandemic. So pandemic was pitched in 2020 March. We had the lockdown and all the major events after that. The census was supposed to happen in 2021. It got delayed and now it is 2024. We don't have the census yet. And it has detrimental impacts because the implementation of welfare schemes, the updation of all the existing schemes, everything is dependent on the census. Now the government is saying pandemic. But if you take the global statistics, of the 223 countries in the world, 189 have conducted their census. And 143 among them did it after March 2020. So after March 2020, 143 countries did their census. And just take the countries who haven't done their census, which account for almost 40. These are countries that are conflict ridden, like the Taliban ruled Afghanistan, the war ridden Ukraine, the Junta ruled Myanmar, etc. And India belongs to this group. So the delay in census cannot be justified in the name of the pandemic, says the Hindu data point, on the basis of global data. So that's the article. It's a critical article on the government. Now that's the quick overview part. Now let's move to the detailed discussion. Now this reservation issue is a dominant topic in the GS2 paper on the polity part, and this 50% ceiling is a major sub-issue under the reservation part. Now let's understand the current issue. You should understand that Bihar was the state that championed caste census. Caste census was a major demand in the 2024 elections as well. At the All India level, this is a motto that was raised by the India Alliance. And Bihar is the state that conducted the caste census before the elections. And as per the data from the caste census, they decided to push forward a legislation which would increase the reservation limit to 65%. So this would increase the reservation for all the subsections, like the economically, the most backward sections, the most backward sections, the SCs, the SCs, STs, all their sub-reservations will increase by maybe 1% and few other percent. That numbers is given in detail, but for us, only the total ceiling limit is important, which would increase to 65%. But the Patna High Court has struck down the legislation, citing the 50% ceiling limit. This one is set by the Indira Soni case, as you know. So the Indira Soni case in 1992 set the 50% ceiling limit, saying that the other 50% would be open merit and the 50% would be reserved. But this ceiling was breached before as well. If you take the Tamil Nadu reservation bill, Tamil Nadu gives more than 50% reservation. Or if you take the economically weaker section reservation, this also breaches the 50% reservation part. Now the total reservation in the country stands at 60% because EWS accounts for 10% of the reservation and open merit is just 40%. But in this case, the Patna High Court has struck down this. This is based on a key argument in the Indra Soni case, which you should always remember. The argument is that adequate representation doesn't mean proportional representation. When you increase the reservation to 65%, or if you take the Tamil Nadu reservation bill, which gives reservation to more than 50%, the argument is that more than 50% of the population is backward. So if you have to ensure reservation or representation, adequate representation to the backward classes who accounts for more than 50%, you have to give reservation. That's the argument by these states. If 50% of the limit is there for open merit, it is very difficult for the backward classes population to come up in the ladders and occupy that seats that is there for open merit. So if there is to be adequate representation, there needs to be reservation. That's the argument by these states. But in the Indra Soni case, the court considered the opposite argument, which is adequate representation doesn't mean proportional representation. Through under 50% reservation, one should be able to give adequate representation. Then the rest can be open merit. This was the argument. Again, in the Bihar case, the preamble itself says that amending the law is aimed to achieve proportionate equality. So these are two different stands, whether proportional representation accounts for adequate representation or not. Maybe you can expect a question on the similar lines as well in the mains. These are two conflicting stands. The court went with the first stand in the Indra Soni case, but some states goes with the other stands. These are two governance or ethical positions also that you can take depending on your conviction. But you shouldn't mistake that Indra Soni case doesn't consider any extraordinary circumstance at all. It considers extraordinary circumstances, and one example that the case itself suggested was geographical isolation. In this case, this was raised by the Bihar government. They asked to consider this as a special case, but the court refused to consider that. The court said that in the Indra Soni case, the only special concession was geographical isolation, and that is the only thing that can be considered as a special case. Other terms of backwardness cannot be considered, said the court. So this is a specific issue. You may use these case studies, and this is the argumentative perspective of this particular issue. Let's move to the final article of the day. That is on green governance. As I have said, it is a very beautifully written article. It gives us insights into two different papers. One is GS2 paper. Second is the GS3 paper on environment and governance. It deals with green governance. Now, this is a very critical article. It has very specific criticisms against the government, but we have codified it on the basis of the exam under 5 different heads. The first one is with respect to forest cover. So if you know the recent state of forest survey, India's forest percentage is around 24%. But the article says that, or the authors say that, there are two issues with this. One is the per capita green cover ratio in India is very low. Per capita green cover ratio is calculated like this. Per head count, the amount of green cover is calculated. So it is just 28 trees per head count population rate. So one person will be equal to 28 trees, or one person will have 28 trees. That's how the per capita green cover ratio is calculated. If you compare it with the rate of Canada, they have 8,953 trees. Or if you take China, a country that is heavily industrialized, they have 130 trees. So why India is at 28? This is a major concern. And the authors with this says that the data that we have right now is appropriated because it includes urban tree cover and plantation forests. Both these need not be accounted as forest cover as per global standards, but we take them into account and we get our data at around 25%. So it is a slightly inflated data as well, says the authors. So reducing forest cover is a major issue that we have to consider. First issue. Second, our cities are unlivable. Now listen, this part itself can be used for a paper or a question on urbanization because it gives you a comprehensive idea about the issues that our cities face right now. The first and major issue is that every metro in the country has grown beyond their plans. If you take New Delhi, New Delhi was constructed or designed by Edward Lutyens before the independence of the country, 1911. Then the city was revamped, but the basic plan belongs to the Lutyens plan. Or if you take Chandigarh, or if you take Bombay, or Tamil Nadu, or Chennai, all these cities or the metro cities were planned at the pre-independence level or immediately after the centuries of independence. And every city, every metro city in India has grown beyond these plans. So there is excess stress on its infrastructure. Second, take the case of water crisis. Delhi is facing a water shortage right now. Yesterday there was a controversy of Delhi police using water cannons to disperse the protest for water stress. So that issue is there. In Bengaluru also water stress is there. Or you take the sewage issue. This is water shortage, this is waste treatment. Only 28% of the sewage is treated. And due to this, there is a problem of pollution of rivers. Along with this, there is a problem of flood water, storm water not draining properly because the sewage is not properly treated. Then you have the heat island effect because of lack of air movement and encroachments along or unauthorized land that will create heat island effect. Then you have the classical effect of air pollution, which leads to other issues like smoke, which is very evident in Delhi winters. It also reduces life expectancy. So these are the urban issues which is attributed to climate change. Then you have the Himalayas, the third major issue. The forecast says that 80% volume of the glaciers will disappear by the end of this century. And this is no simple issue because it leads to multiple issues like cloud burst, like the one you saw that led to the Uttarakhand floods. Then you have the issue of Gangetic Plain because most of the rivers in the Gangetic Plain is dependent on the glaciers. They remain perennial because of the glaciers, the water supply from these glaciers. If the glaciers get exhausted, it will lead to a shortage of water in the Gangetic Plains. That will create serious issues affecting everything from agriculture to basic livelihood. The fourth issue that they suggest is the lack of public participation. They say that the environmental impact assessment was a step in the right direction to ensure public participation. But through a series of amendments, this was diluted. One example is the Chardham Highway project in Uttarakhand. The EIA for this particular project was passed along with several other small EIAs. And this particular project is one of the reasons why the tunnel crisis in Uttarakhand was amplified. Now the entire Uttarakhand region is facing a lot of problems like cloudburst, landslides, and this land subsidization, all these things. Their environmental impact assessment is taken very lightly. So public participation is diluted, says the author. Finally, there is an issue of greenwashing as well. This is a previous year prelims question of the UPSC. Greenwashing means using all the technical or the commercial terms to whitewash what is being done. So this tag, the greenwashing tag, can be used by companies claiming that they are doing X and Y, but the actual genuine conservation effort is not coming. The examples the author gives is compensatory afforestation or the green credit schemes. Through these schemes, the corporates or the commercial entities, they claim to be doing so and so, but the actual genuine effort is not coming. So these are 5 major issues that can be traced in the environmental front as well as the governance front in India. So it's a proper article that gives you proper takeaways for a mains answer. So that's the editorial discussion of today by Neva. Thank you for listening.